Hello, every pony. Scar89 here, once again with an actual fan fiction reading this time. Again, I've been doing a whole bunch of the professional ones, which are taking forever to come out and stuff, whatnot. So, today I decided to read one of the stories I am allowed to mess up on, and you get to see the whole thing. Red versus Blue, or My Little Caboose, Blue is Magic, because I haven't read that for a while, and I'm bored. There's not really nothing to do today, so Anyway, so yeah. I'll try not to mess up as much as I did last time, because I went over it and I did mess up a lot. Terribly. A lot. Bad amount of lot. So, without further ado, here is My Little Caboose, Blue is Magic. Chapter 40, I think. I'm not so sure. I'm kind of confused. Anyway. Chapter 40, I guess. Small bets. "This isn't a joke, Grif," Church said. "I thought it was pretty funny," Grif muttered, "just trying to make light of the situation." "How can you not be worried?" Twilight asked. Grif shrugged and sat up on the table. He then jumped off and pain shot through his hoof again. "Okay, maybe I'm a bit worried," Grif said, gritting his teeth together in pain. "But, Church, you know that I have lived through a lot worse." "I know you can take a beating. I remember that time with Tex when she..." "Yeah," Grif said, placing his hoofs instinctively over his crotch at the mention of Tex. "I remember, and I'm in no hurry to revisit that." Church couldn't help but let out a weary smile. "Anyway, you can take a beating, but each of those times nobody actually tried to kill you," Church said. "They just tried to harm you." Grif looked over at Church and raised his eyebrows. "Okay, so maybe Sarge has tried to kill you a couple of times," Church said, "but I don't think he really wants you dead." "What would make you think that?" Grif asked. "Remember that time that Tucker almost killed you with Sheila?" Church asked. Tucker tried to kill Grif? Oh, Tucker tried to kill Grif? Twilight asked, appalled at the thought. "Sarge took Simmons' organs and put them into you," Church said, ignoring Twilight's questions. "And when you went into the forest, Sarge didn't accept the idea that you could be dead." "Really?" Grif asked. Yeah, well, he kind of said that he would be the one to kill you, but the thought is still there." "How inspiring," Grif muttered sarcastically, but did not hide his smile. "But now it isn't just a beating you're in for," Church said, getting back on topic. "You've been told that odds are that you will die." Now I'm less worried," Grif said. "How?" Fluttershy asked. "Because I know that Sarge will get me before this shit does," Grif said, motioning to his infected hoof. "And Twilight said there was no cure. I've never been the one to volunteer for fighting, and I'm not going to fight something that is out of my hands, hooves." Twilight stared at Grif, then looked back at the book. "The book says no cure has been found. That doesn't mean there isn't one," Twilight said. The others looked at her with questioning gazes. "What are you saying?" Grif asked. "I'm saying that we shouldn't give up hope just yet," Twilight said. "I say we look for something to help you." "But giving up hopes is the only thing I'm good at," Grif said. What about that zebra, Sakura?" Church suggested. "She lives in that forest. Wouldn't she know more about that kind of stuff that goes on in it?" That would probably be the best place to start," Twilight agreed, nodding her head. "Fluttershy, you stay here with Grif. We'll go get the others to help us." "Okay," Fluttershy said. "Come on, Spike, you're coming too," Twilight said. "What? Why me?" Spike asked. "Because you're going to apologize to Tucker." Spike groaned, but did not hesitate to jump up on Twilight's back. "We'll be back soon," Twilight said, opening the door and walking out. Fluttershy nodded slowly and sat down next to Grif. Church gave a half-hearted wave to the pair and made his way out the door, shutting it behind him. Fluttershy kept staring at the infection, blaming herself for what is happening. "You really need to stop blaming yourself," Grif said. "I can't help it," Fluttershy said weakly, hugging Grif once again. You're going to die and it's all my fault. How about a bet? Grif asked. What kind of bet? Fluttershy asked, wiping a tear from her eye. When I make it through this, Grif said. Not if. When I make it through this, you spend a day in my shoes. What do you mean? Fluttershy asked. Take a day off. Sleep, rest, whatever. Just stop worrying about every little detail. Ugh. Grif then raised his good hoof and smiled weakly. Deal? Deal, Fluttershy said, shaking his hoof, matching Grif's weak smile. Twilight's first stop was Sugarcube Corner, catching Rainbow Dash and Tucker as they were leaving. They quickly ran the situation by them as they grabbed Pinkie and Caboose. The group then made their way to the Carousel Boutique, where they found Rarity beginning her work on Simon's suit. Although they didn't fully explain what was going on, they knew that it seemed serious. The group then made their final stop at the Sweet Apple Acres, where Sarge was cavorting about with the Cutie Mark Crusaders. What's going on? Sarge asked as the group walked up. Grif is in trouble, Church said. Anything out of the ordinary? Sarge asked. It turns out that Timberwolf attack had more on an effect on Grif than we thought, Twilight said. What do you mean? Sarge asked. He has been infected by the Timberwolves, and if we don't find out what's wrong, he could, Church said, trailing off. Who are the little ones? All right, Sarge grunted. Listen, why don't you girls come and see me later? This might be a little bit out of your league. Nothing is out of our league, Scootaloo said happily. Trust me, this is, Sarge said. The Cutie Mark Crusaders hesitantly nodded and made their way from the group. Sarge nodded at Church to continue. Anyway, the infection is painfully making its way through Grif's body. If we don't do anything soon, Grif will be seriously injured. If I exert zero energy, I get exactly what I've always wanted, Sarge said with a laugh. Yeah, Blue, that's a hell of a compelling argument on your part. Bravo! We're serious, Twilight said. Grif could die, don't you care? Yeah, Grif grunted. Right here, I'll go get Applejack. Don't mind him, Simmons said. Sarge just doesn't want anybody to know that he will be the one to take Grif out before anyone else does. Chapter 41, I think. Yeah. Back to the forest. Every pony soon arrived back at Twilight's place, where Grif was starting to doze off on the table. Hey, what took you guys so long? Grif asked. Well, I heard you were in pain, so naturally I hesitated as long as I could before coming here, Sarge said. Gee, thanks, Sarge, Grif said, swinging his back hooves off the edge of the table. Sarge looked at Grif's infected leg seriously, slowly examining it. Before Grif asked what he was doing, Sarge promptly punched the infected area, which caused Grif to fall back in pain. What the fuck was that for? Grif yelled. I was just making sure you weren't faking it, Sarge said. Well, at least now you know. Grif muttered. I don't know. That didn't seem genuine to me, Sarge said. Don't hit him, Fluttershy said quietly, placing herself between Sarge and Grif. Sarge just kept staring at Fluttershy, seemingly looking right through her. He then grunted and started toward the door. Let's just get this show on the road, Sarge said. Church walked up to Grif and helped Fluttershy hoist Grif up. Grif nodded gratefully and started to make his way forward. I think I can do this by myself, Fluttershy said. You sure? Church asked. Fluttershy nodded, so Church let Grif's other leg down. Hurry it up, ladies, Sarge called from outside. I want to make it there before Grif dies. You are a true leader of the people, Sarge, Simmons said. Hey, Simmons, Grif asked. What, Grif? When did you get your mark? Grif asked. Simmons walked behind Rarity, breaking Grif's view of him as he responded. Oh, I got it at Rarity's boutique. For what? Sewing? Grif asked, chuckling lightheartedly. Of course not, Simmons said, laughing weakly. That'd be totally womanly. Sarge, confounded by the delay, walked back into the room and saw Simmons as he retreated around Rarity. Hey, Simmons, did you get your mark for sewing? Sarge said. Fuck, Simmons grunted, then looked at Sarge. Yeah, I guess I did. Grif doubled over with laughter. He would have fallen if it had not been for Fluttershy holding him up. Fuck you. Where am I? Oh. Fuck you, Grif. It's no better than yours. How about you, Sarge? You gonna yell at me for feminizing the team? Not at all, Sarge said. I think it suits you just fine. Ha ha. Oh, ha ha. Oh, ha ha, Sarge, Simmons said sarcastically. I mean it, Sarge said. You always had an eye for detail. Almost half of the plans I come up with would point out their flaws. Bullshit. If you told Simmons to jump, he would jump, then get on his knees and promise to jump higher next time, Grif said. Screw you, Grif, Simmons muttered sourly. Well, he may not have spoken out, but I'm sure he saw the flaws in my plans, as few as there were, Sarge said. That's because your plans didn't have flaws. They were flaws, thus eliminating the possibility of finding multiple flaws in each plan, Simmons said. And it wasn't half the plans, it was basically all of them. See? Even now you still recall the flaws, Sarge said. I would be surprised if that wasn't your special talent. Oh, well, thanks, Sarge, Simmons said happily. Let's go. We don't want Grif to die now, do we? Simmons promptly turned and walked out the door with Rarity. Grif, with the aid of Fluttershy, walked over to Sarge. Grif leaned over to Sarge. We're still gonna rip on him later for being a woman, right? Son, we're the red team, Sarge said. Did you really even need to ask that? Glad to hear it, Grif said. The group soon found themselves at the edge of the Everfree Forest. For a few minutes, they just stood there, staring into it, trying to discern any danger that might be lurking as soon as they entered. So, should we get going? Grif asked. Not that I'm against standing around doing nothing. Hold on, Applejack said, scouring a bag she had strapped on her side. What are you doing? Twilight asked. Just checking to make sure I have my supplies and orders. After a few brief moments, Applejack stopped. All right, let's go. Applejack then started to make her way into the forest. The others quickly followed her lead, trying to hold a steady pace. From behind a bush, a small filly's head poked out. Why are they going in there? Scootaloo asked. I don't know, Applebloom said. It was hard to hear him from so far away. I think it has something to do with that Grif guy, Sweetie Belle said. What makes you say that? Scootaloo asked. Well, at the farm, the Blue Stallion mentioned Grif's name, Sweetie Belle said, and Fluttershy seemed to be carrying him. After a couple seconds of silence, one of the Crusaders spoke up again. So, should we follow them? Scootaloo asked. I don't know, Scoots, Applebloom said. I told my sis I would never go back in there unless I was being accompanied by an adult. What do you think, Sweetie Belle? Scootaloo asked. Are you too scared to go in? I didn't say... Oh, sorry, that's still Applebloom. I didn't say I was scared, Applebloom protested. I said we'd be safer with an adult. Being an adult is the whole point, Applebloom, Scootaloo said. Sarge said he would help us. What if he needs our help and we don't go and lose a chance on getting our cutie marks? That's true. He did say he would help us, Sweetie Belle said. thinking for a brief moment. I think we should follow them. So are you in Apple Bloom, or are you a chicken? Scootaloo asked. I'm not chicken. You're the chicken, Apple Bloom said. Prove it, Scootaloo said. Let's go in and trail them. Apple Bloom looked into the forest and felt like she was being watched by something from within. Fine, Apple Bloom said, putting on a thin veil of courage. Let's just hurry up and try to keep out of harm's way. The Cutie Mark Crusaders then hesitantly followed the group's tracks deep into the Everfree forest. Chapter 43, I think. Potions 101. They're watching us, Grif muttered quietly, slowly following the others with Fluttershy. What do you mean? Twilight asked. The wood wolves, Grif said. They're looking at me. Grif's head was on a swivel, instantly following every sound. In the nearby underbush, he could make out faint movements of timber wolves, stalking, watching, waiting. Grif didn't know what they were doing. All he knew is that they were there. The others looked over to where he was looking, but could not see anything out of place. Is being paranoid one of the symptoms? Sarge asked sarcastically. I don't think so, Twilight said. The book never mentioned. The group then heard a branch snap from the bushes, and every pony looked over worriedly at it. Now who is the paranoid one? Grif asked, chuckling to himself. We should pick up the pace, Sarge said, starting to move a bit faster. I don't want to get what Grif has. I can't exactly run on this leg, you know, Grif said. You want to be dog food? Sarge asked. Grif muttered incomprehensibly and tried to move a bit faster. A couple of steps later, Grif tripped over a tree branch and grunted. For the love of... he said as he froze in place. As everyone else followed his gaze, they saw the Timberwolves closing in, slowly creeping up on them from behind. Sarge walked next to Grif and picked him up. What should we do? Tucker asked quietly. The same thing blues do best, Sarge muttered, then turned and started to sprint, carrying Grif on his back. Run! The others didn't hesitate to turn tail at Sarge's orders. The others did not look back, except for Grif. He watched curiously as rather than chase them, the Timberwolves splintered off back into the woods. But he wasn't about to let Sarge drop him on his ass, as he smiled smugly and decided to let Sarge carry him down the trail. As they arrived at Sokora's house, they all stopped and looked back, expecting the Timberwolves to be right on their fetlocks. Where did they go? Simmons asked. I don't know, Church said, but I don't exactly want to stick around to wait for them. Church is right. Let's hurry up inside. We may have just temporarily lost them, Twilight said, walking up to the door. As Twilight lifted her hoof to the door, it suddenly swung open, causing Twilight to lose balance and fall forward. Church quickly caught her before she fell. Be a little more careful, Church said. Thanks, Twilight said quietly. Well, if it isn't my acquaintances and friends from in town, Zecora said happily, then noticed Fluttershy looking at Grif worriedly. What could be so wrong, my dear, that it would make you frown? Zecora, the bite that Grif got from the Timberwolves were more severe than we thought, Twilight said. Zecora looked at Grif and saw his infected leg and nodded quickly. Bring him so I may examine why his leg is so green, Zecora said. There must have been something I must not have seen. Sarge brought Grif in and put him on the rug. Zecora went to one of her books, opened it up, and skimmed the pages quickly. She settled on the one page, gave it a once-over, and placed it on the table. She then grabbed another book and started to cross-reference them. She closed her eyes as she collected her thoughts. She suddenly closed the book and ran up to her brewing cauldron and lit a fire underneath. She started to take out samples of plants and herbs, examining each one closely. She selected a few and threw them in a mortar and pestle and started to grind them into a fine powder. And good news And good news, Doc? Grif said. That depends on one thing, Sakura said. Oh, and what would that be? I am missing some ingredients that I need, and others. I am missing some ingredients that I need the others to bring, Sakura said. I'm not exactly one for picking flowers, Sarge said. For the potion I have all the flowers I require, Sakura said. What I need may be a bit more dangerous to acquire. How dangerous are we talking? Church asked. There are 3 main ingredients that I still need, Sakura said. But to find them, you must have courage and speed. We have that, Tucker said smugly. What are the ingredients? Simmons asked. The first ingredient which I need is located on a great oak, for when it is burned it provides a soothing smoke. Great oaks are the oldest kind of trees in Equestria, Twilight explained. They are located in areas that are uninhabitable for ponies, but are often homes to many other creatures. Tree bark, got it, Sarge said. What else? The second ingredient is a cockatrice scale. The most potent of ones are those on its tail. Hey Grif, there's your good news, Sarge said. It looks like you aren't the only one who makes creatures up. Cockatrices are real, Twilight said. They are monsters that look like a mix of a chicken and a snake. They don't sound too dangerous, Simmons said. They may not sound like it, but when they gaze into your eyes, they have the ability to turn you into stone, Twilight said. Okay, we got tree bark and a cockathing each scale, Sarge said. What's the third ingredient? The third and most vital ingredient is the most dangerous of all, Sakura said. The one you have a great chance of being mauled. Yeah, we got the dangerous part already, Sarge grunted impatiently. What is the damn thing? It is that of which Grif received when he was bit, Sakura said. You need to retrieve a sample of Timberwolf's spit. Okay, Sarge grunted. So we need some tree bark, a scale, and some spit. That's not exactly sugar, spice, and everything nice, Church said. Why am I not surprised that Grif just doomed us to certain death? Simmons asked. You know me, Simmons, Grif said with a weak smile. I always like to mix things up a little. Don't want you to go softer than you already are now, do we? Chapter 43. Now, I guess. Road call. Okay, we should split up, Twilight said. It will make this easier if we all split up and look for it. Makes sense, Church said. Who will do what though? Tucker said. I don't think I want to fight those fucking wolves. I'll deal with the wolves, Sarge grunted. I think we should look for the bark, Church said to Twilight. What do you get to do that? Tucker said. I want to do that easy shit. Because Twilight will be able to recognize what it looks like, Church said. Caboose, Pinky, you're coming too. Yeah! Yay! Caboose said happily. I like trees. So that leaves Rarity, Simmons, Rainbow Dash, and Tucker to get the cockatrice scale, Twilight said. There is only one kind of way I would ever think of getting stoned, and being turned into stone is not that way, Tucker said. What's the matter, Blue? Are you scared? Sarge said, cooing softly. Tucker glared at Sarge, but Sarge just laughed at him. You have nothing to complain about. I'm the one taking the bigger risk, Sarge said. Whatever, Tucker said. Stop complaining, Rainbow Dash said. Let's make this quick. I don't want to be so tired I fall asleep during the Wonderbolts show. Where are we going to find that lizard hen thing anyway? Tucker asked. I'll show you all that I can kick their scaled asses. Not too far south from here is a cockatrice cave, Sakura said, but when you see them, you may not be so brave. As much as I like taking attendance, which is to say not very much, I would like it if you guys would go soon, Grif said. I can feel the shit spreading, and it does not feel great. Spike, you stay with Fluttershy and Sakura, Twilight said. But Twilight, Spike started to protest. No buts, Twilight said. You still haven't even done what you came here to do yet. Oh, right, Spike said, turning to Tucker. Hey, Tucker, I'm really sorry for what I said. Don't worry about it, Tucker grunted, walking out the door. Is that good enough? Spike asked. Boys will be boys, Twilight thought to herself as she rolled her eyes at Spike. Come on, I know where the great oaks are, and if we hurry now, we should be able to make it there in a matter of minutes, Twilight said. All right, Church said, turning himself to face Caboose and Pinky. Come on, you two. Okay, Mr. Church, Pinky said, hopping out the door. Every pony was making their way out the door, except Sarge, who stood in front of Applejack, blocking her from going out. What are you doing, Sarge? Move out of the way, Applejack said. Can't let you go, Sarge said. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You can't do this alone, Applejack said. If you have a family to look after, Sarge grunted. It would be best if you'd stayed here. You need my help, Applejack protested. Sarge stared at her for a few seconds, then begrudgingly stepped back and grunted. Okay, just stay behind me, Sarge said. I don't want to be the one to tell the little ones what happened to her sister. If anyone's getting hurt, it'll be you, Applejack snorted, making her way past Sarge. Hey, Sarge, Grif said. What? Sarge asked. Thanks, Grif said. Don't think I'm doing this for you, Sarge said with a smile, walking out the door. Soon all the ponies were standing outside of the hut, staring around the forest, trying to find any immediate dangers. All right, Church said. Which way was it? Well, to the south of here is the cave that Rainbow Dash and the others need to get to, Twilight said. The trees where we are going are located northeast of here, and that should take us just a couple of minutes. And where should we look for the wolves? Sarge asked. I don't know, Twilight said. Timberwolves are always on the move, and only stop to rest briefly in the morning to sleep. I think you should start with the trail that we came in on, Church said. It would probably be easier to look for signs of them there. Good thinking, Church, Twilight said. Let's see which group can get their ingredients first, Rainbow Dash said, zooming into the air. Rainbow Dash, this is not a game, Rarity said. Spoils sport, Rainbow Dash pouted, landing back on the ground. Let's go, we're wasting time standing around, Sarge said, staring down the path. Okay, be careful, every pony, Twilight said. Back inside Sakura's hut, Fluttershy was looking out the window, watching the others leave. Grif looked at Fluttershy and grunted. Do you think they'll be okay? Fluttershy asked. I've known these guys for years, and if I had to place my money on it, I'd say that I'm as good as dead. Good thing I'm not placing money on it, Grif said with a chuckle. That's very pessimistic, Spike said. I'm just being a realist, Grif said, laying back down on the rug. Might as well get comfortable. It'll take them a while to get back. Good thinking, Spike said, taking a seat on the ground. Fluttershy went up to Grif and sat down beside him. Hey, Grif muttered. Fluttershy said nothing but continued to stare at Grif's leg. Grif sighed deeply and put his hoof on her to comfort her. Listen, I'm sure they will be perfectly fine with gathering the ingredients, Grif said. You just have to stop blaming yourself and worrying about me. Everything will be fine. Okay, Fluttershy said quietly. Sakura made her way back to the brewing stand and started crushing more ingredients, tossing them into the mixture when it was necessary. Fluttershy slowly walked up to Sakura and watched her stir it. Is there anything I can do to help? Fluttershy asked. Zecora glanced at Fluttershy and nodded quickly. Yes, you can. Keep mixing this. Do not slow down, Zecora said. You will know to stop when the mixture turns brown. Okay, Fluttershy said. Fluttershy grabbed the wooden stick, mixing at the same pace as Zecora was. Zecora walked up to the potion book and opened it once again, flipping through the pages to make sure she had not missed anything. Chapter 44, I think. Hardwood. Bow chick bow wow. Twilight and Church were walking in silence, focusing on the surrounding areas. Pinky was humming a tune that Caboose was rather enjoying, so he joined in. However, Caboose was humming the song completely off tune, and Pinky thought he had been humming his own song, so she started to hum what he was humming. What song is this? Pinky asked after a couple minutes. I thought you knew. I thought you knew, Caboose exclaimed. Pinky and Caboose started to giggle. Church glared over at the pair who were making a racket. Be quiet. We don't want to bring any attention to ourselves, Church snapped. Okay, Caboose. Okay, Church, Caboose said sadly. Are we there yet? No, Caboose, Twilight said. It should only be another minute or two at the most. Oh, okay, Caboose said. Are we there yet now? Pinky asked immediately after. Oh, for fuck's sake, Church thought to himself, not sure if Pinky had asked to spite them or simply because she was Pinkie Pie. No, Pinky, we aren't there yet, Twilight said. The group then fell into silence for another minute. How about now? Caboose asked. Caboose, please just shut the fuck up, Church said. Caboose did not reply to Church's outburst. He just nodded and put his head down, slowly following the others. It took them less than 2 minutes after that to get to their destination, where they found many oversized trees, trunks all a very dark brown. So these are them, I assume? Church asked. Yes, Twilight replied simply. This place is covered in mud, Caboose said. You are a certified genius, Caboose, Church said sarcastically. Thanks, Church, Caboose said happily. Let's try and find the darkest tree to get a sample of that, Twilight said. Why not just use any tree? Church asked. Unlike most trees, these trees get darker with age, Twilight explained, and the tree properties grow stronger and wield much more potency with age. Church gave a quick nod to show that he understood, and started to look for the darkest tree he could find. It took him less than a minute to find a tree that almost seemed to be black. Twilight walked up to the tree, and her horn started to glow. He looked back at Church and nodded. I can feel the power in this one, Twilight said. Alright, how are we going to get a piece of it? Church asked. Well, these trees are immune to magic, so that is out of the question, Twilight said. How nice, Church said. Maybe we should have come up with a plan before coming in here. I have an idea, Pinky said happily. Really? I would love to hear it, Church said. Pinky nodded and poked Caboose in the side. Caboose, do you know that these trees taste like double chocolate cupcakes? Pinky asked. Really? Caboose yelled. Caboose ran up to the near black tree and chomped it, shattering a large section of it. He chewed it for a couple of seconds before spitting it out and scrubbing his tongue. That doesn't taste like chocolate at all. Caboose said. Pinky smiled and reached into her hair and pulled out a wrapped chocolate bar and threw it at Caboose. Thank you, Caboose said happily, throwing the bar in his mouth, wrapper and all. Nice going, Pinky, Church said, giving a curt nod of approval. Thanks, Pinky said. Twilight walked up to the 2 largest pieces of wood she could find and put them into a small bag she had. This should be good enough. I won't be able to use magic as I carry them, though, Twilight said. Now we just need to get back to Zecora's place and... Before Twilight could finish, a deafening roar filled the area. Every pony looked around nervously, trying to locate the source of the noise. What the fuck was that? Church asked. I don't know, but the screech sounded familiar, Twilight said. As Twilight said that the sound of a tree snapping down and slamming into the mud came from their left, then another. "What should we do?" Twilight asked. "I was going to suggest we run," Church said. A semi-rooted tree then shot into the air from 30 meters away and was headed straight for them. Church's horn started to glow as he deflected the tree to the side. When the tree slammed into the ground, a large creature suddenly came into view through the trees, charging straight for them. "Hydra!" Twilight yelled, running back towards Sakura's. "There are 5 of them!" Caboose yelled, sprinting with Pinky next to Twilight. "No! Hydras are creatures that have multiple heads!" Twilight said. "When one gets severed, it grows 2 more in its place." "Shut up and keep running!" Church yelled. "We don't need to waste our breath!" As Church said that, one of the Hydra's heads lunged forward and grabbed for Church. Church saw it coming and rolled out of the way. Church grunted as his head hit the ground, but he got up and soon caught up with the others, but they were all stopped. "Why did you stop running?" Church yelled. "There is nowhere to run to!" Twilight said simply. We're trapped! The trees that surrounded them were so close together that it would be impossible to go in between them. The Hydra then burst through the trees and stood there, blocking the only path out. "I don't want to die," Church said. "Wait a minute. I can't die. Why am I scared?" "Because you can feel pain," Twilight said quietly. "Shit, I forgot about that," Church muttered. The Hydra then screeched and its head lunged toward all of them. A dark green ball appeared between the group of ponies and the Hydra. The ball then exploded outward, surging toward the Hydra, enveloping it in a green embrace. I thought you said you couldn't use magic," Church yelled. "I thought that was you," Twilight said, confused and intrigued by what was happening. The Hydra stumbled around, trying to break free of the magic. Suddenly, the spell changed colors to blue, and the Hydra stopped moving, a cold mist coming off of its body. It froze," Twilight asked. "Oh no. It froze?" Twilight asked. "Why is it frozen?" "I don't know, but I say we take advantage of this and run," Church said. "I don't want to be here when that spell wears off." "Good idea," Twilight said as the group ran past the frozen Hydra and headed back to Sakura's place. Chapter 45, I guess. Yeah, raising the scale. Where the hell is this cave?" Simmons asked. "Just keep following the path," Tucker said. I can barely fucking see it," Simmons muttered. "Stop whining, you baby. It's not helping us get there any faster," Rainbow Dash said. "I'm not whining, I'm complaining," Simmons said. "There are 2 completely different things." Well said, Simmons," Rarity said, before turning to Rainbow Dash. "If you are going to yell at him, at least get your facts straight." "Thank you, Rarity," Simmons said as recognition flickered across his face. "Wait a second. Hey!" "Sorry, I didn't mean it that way," Rarity said sincerely. Let's just go. I want to get this over with," Tucker said. After a few more minutes of walking, they came to a large opening in the side of the mountain. There was a wooden sign with an X carved on it, and standing next to it was a statue of a bear cub. "I can't say much for the decor," Rarity said. "I don't think that's decor," Simmons said quietly. "What do you... Oh," Rarity started. Suddenly, Rarity's eyes went wide when she remembered what cockatrices do, and she looked over at the trapped cub and frowned. "Poor thing. We should find a way to help it." "I don't think there is much we can do," Simmons said quietly. "Let's just grab the scale and hurry back." Rarity nodded slowly, but continued looking at the trapped creature. The group quietly made their way into the cave, slowly walking into blindness. Stand still for a second," Rarity whispered. "What is it?" Rainbow Dash asked. "Shh," Rarity said as she focused. Rarity's horn then burst into a dazzling light, and every pony shut their eyes. "What are you doing?" Tucker hissed. "Trying to blind us?" Quite the opposite, Rarity said. Every pony then opened their eyes to see that the cave was as bright as day. Good thinking, Simmons said. I try, Rarity said modestly. The group then continued further into the cave, trying to find any hints of a cockatrice. Tucker was walking ahead of them when he suddenly backed up against the wall, motioning his hoof to follow his lead. What's wrong? Rainbow Dash asked quietly. Is one in there? No, Tucker replied. More like 50. What are we going to do? Simmons whispered. I don't know, Tucker said. Should we just run in and snatch one? That does not sound like the best of plans, Reddy said. Tucker muttered something under his breath and peeked around the corner. I think they're sleeping, Tucker said. Well, at least there is some good news, Simmons said. I say we do Tucker's plan, Rainbow Dash said. Slowly go in, snag one, and then run. I'll do it, Tucker said quickly. Be careful. Careful is my middle name, Tucker said jokingly as he started walking toward the group of cockatrices and spotted one that was not sleeping near the others. Its body slithered slightly and Tucker froze. After a couple of seconds, he continued toward the sleeping creature. What the fuck is its tail? Tucker muttered quietly to himself. Tucker slowly walked over to it, looking for its tail. After a brief time, he found it, but he realized that it was Tucker under... Tucker slowly walked over it, looking for its tail. After a brief time, he found it, but he realized that it was tucked under its body. Tucker groaned and decided that it wasn't worth it, and started toward one of the ones that was closer to the others. Rainbow Dash decided to go and help Tucker when he saw that he was headed toward a larger group. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my reading right now. I'm just getting tired, I guess. As she stared into the room, she stumbled, ending up right in front of the lone cockatrice. She had too much momentum and not enough time to take off, as she bumped right into the sleeping the sleeping chicken snake. The cockatrice screeched after being awoken so abruptly by the intrusion. It then slithered up, balancing on its tail, continuing the screeching noise. Fuck! Tucker exclaimed. The cockatrices that had been all clumped together all awoke at this, adding their own screeches to the mix, filling the cave with deafening volume, disorienting Rainbow Dash and Tucker. Fortunately, the group of cockatrices were more interested in their sleep, simply slithering deeper into the cave instead of worrying about the intruders. The lone one remained, however, eyes scanning for what had awoken it. Spotting the still sun Rainbow Dash, it quickly slithered over and constricted her with its snake-like body. Help! Rainbow Dash managed, the sound hoarse from the lack of air in her lungs. Simmons' horn started to glow as he quickly took action and tried to help Rainbow Dash, but he wandered too close to the cockatrice and its prey. He was rewarded with a powerful swat of the cockatrice's tail, sending him flying into a wall and dropping down as he lost consciousness. Rarity, do something! Rainbow Dash wheezed. I can't! If I stop to use a different spell, we will be blinded! Rarity yelled. The cockatrice then tightened its grip, giving its head enough room. The cockatrice then tightened its grip, giving its head enough room, locked its gaze with Rainbow Dash's terrified eyes. Shouldn't that say giving its head enough room to lock its gaze with Rainbow Dash's eyes? I don't know. Rainbow Dash yelled as she felt her hooves turning into stone. Tucker took action immediately, taking off like a shot. He coiled heavily with the cockatrice, causing it to release Rainbow Dash as it flew into the wall of the cave. Sorry. Come after me, you fucking asshole! Tucker yelled. The cockatrice quickly responded to its new attacker, tackling Tucker to the ground and wrapping its tail around its neck. The cockatrice then gazed into Tucker's eyes, and Tucker's legs began the stony transformation that had that he had just witnessed occurring to Rainbow Dash. Tucker started to yell in pain, but his voice was crackling. The crackle was not of that of pain or of bones breaking, but that of electricity. The cockatrice's attention broke from Tucker's eyes and down to his front hooves, where sparks were appearing. "What are you doing?" Rainbow Dash yelled. Tucker looked back at Rainbow Dash and Rarity, who were standing there with horrified expression. "Run!" Tucker said quietly. Quietly. "Run!" Tucker said quietly. "We're not leaving without you!" Rainbow Dash yelled. Tucker shook his head, and the electricity surged to his wings, and he shot across the cavern, dragging the cockatrice with him. "Tucker!" Rainbow Dash yelled, flying after him. Tucker and the cockatrice slammed into the wall, which stunned the cockatrice, forcing it to release Tucker. Oh, hey, Dina. Tucker flew into the air, collecting his own surroundings and observing the stunned cockatrice. Once the cockatrice regained its senses, it screeched at Tucker and barreled toward him. Tucker concentrated on the electrical sensation that was coursing through him and forced the current back into his hooves. Suddenly, the electricity surged toward on either side of his hoof, forming a two-pronged blade of crackling energy. "Now, this is interesting," Tucker grunted. Rainbow Dash charged in, still worried about Tucker and the energy that was crackling from his body. I don't know what that is. Anyway. Her jaw dropped as she saw the energy blade emerge from Tucker's hoof. Tucker had no time to admire his new weapon, however. He flew to the side, dodging the charging cockatrice. As it passed him, he sliced downward, severing the cockatrice's tail. "Swish!" Tucker yelled. The cockatrice that had retreated heard their injured friend and started flooding back into the chamber where they were sitting. Tucker grabbed the severed tail and looked at Rainbow Dash. "Run!" Tucker yelled. Rainbow Dash nodded as they took off back towards the entrance of the cave. As Rarity saw them coming and took off as well. Tucker grabbed Simmons on his way by and shot out of the cave, lightning crackling out from his back hooves and wings. They saw the rear end of the bear cub quickly retreating into the underbrush of the forest. "I'm glad that we could save the poor thing," Rarity said at the sight. The group quickly made their way back to Sequoia's place. Rarity opened the door, allowing the exhausted forms of Rainbow Dash and Tucker to go in first. Tucker put Simmons on the ground and promptly collapsed onto the ground himself, his legs giving out as the adrenaline flowed out of his system. "That was awesome!" Rainbow Dash panted. "Yeah, it was. Wasn't it?" Tucker said, smiling weakly. "Now we just have to find out how the fuck I did it." "Do you have the scales?" Grif asked. Tucker looked over at Grif and tossed the severed tail at him. Grif caught it and looked at it, then back to Tucker. "Nice going," Grif said. "But couldn't you have made it back here faster?" "Oh, Grif, you're so stupid." "Ugh, I'm tired, but... I'll read this last chapter, because I have been reading for about close to 49, 50 minutes, whatever. I'm sure you guys can be held over with that for now, can't you? I don't know. This one will bring me to about an hour if it's that long. Well, it's not very long. I'm muttering to myself. Okay, chapter 46, I guess. A spittle help. The cutie mark crusaders slowly and cautiously walked down the rough trail, eyes darting every which way whenever they heard a noise. "This was a bad idea," Sweetie Belle said quietly. It's too late to turn back now." Sorry, that wasn't Scootaloo's voice at all. "It's too late to turn back now," Scootaloo said. "What was that?" Appleboom said, jumping to the side. "What was what?" Sweetie Belle asked. The bush. It moved," Appleboom said. "I didn't see anything," Sweetie Belle said. Appleboom is just looking for a reason to turn back," Scootaloo said with a small, nervous laugh. Again, sorry that my Scootaloo is so terrible. Sweetie Belle looked over at the bush and yelled, taking a few steps back. No, she's not! What are you talking about? Scootaloo asked, turning to the bush and that Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle were watching to see a pair of yellow eyes shining brilliantly from within it. What is that thing? Scootaloo asked quietly. I think it's one of them Timberwolf thingies Granny Smith talked about during Family Appreciation Day, Apple Bloom said. The glow of their eyes then suddenly disappeared. The girls kept staring at the bush for what seemed like an eternity. Where did it go? Where did it go? Sweetie Belle asked. I don't know, but I think we should keep going, Scootaloo said. Scootaloo then turned down the path, just to find herself face to face with a Timberwolf, eyeing her curiously. The girls barely managed to stifle their screams as the Timberwolf circled them slowly. After a few seconds, the Timberwolf suddenly stopped and started to growl. The girls' bodies were all frozen in intense fear, but their eyes continued darting around the forest as they continued to hear more noises coming from the dark forest. Another Timberwolf jumped out of the bush, then a third, then a fourth. What are we going to do? Sweetie Belle asked. I don't know. I don't know, Sweetie Belle squeaked. Sarge and Applejack were backtracking down the trail, looking for where the Timberwolves had lost interest in them. Applejack kept trying to talk to Sarge, but whenever she tried to start a conversation, he would just grunt and keep going. It was beginning to worry her. You know, Sarge, it ain't doing you much good keeping to yourself like this. How about we just stick to what we came out here to do? Sarge muttered. Maybe it'd help if you talked about your feelings, Applejack said. I would rather not. And where did you become Donut? I've been meaning to ask you, who is this Donut character? Every now and again, I hear you say his name. He was one of my soldiers, Sarge muttered. Really? What happened to him? Applejack asked. He got shot and died, Sarge said, not turning to Applejack. Applejack stood still and stared at Sarge. I'm sorry, Sarge. I didn't mean to. Don't worry about it, Sarge grunted. Let's find these wolves. I think I understand, Applejack said. You blame yourself for that donut fella's passing, and you don't want to lose another one of your own. Sarge stopped walking briefly, turned to Applejack and gave her a limp shrug and went right back to work. They then heard 3 piercing screams. Sarge and Applejack shared a nervous look. That sounded like Apple Bloom! Applejack yelled. Applejack and Sarge burst through the thick bushes to find the 3 crusaders surrounded by a pack of Timberwolves. They crouched behind the bush and knew they had to come up with a plan. Sis! Help! Apple Bloom yelled. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Applejack asked. I think I could take 1 or 2, but no more. I don't have to take any, Sarge said quietly, standing up. Sarge, you better not... you don't have to take any, Sarge said quietly, standing up. Sarge, you better not... Applejack started, but Sarge leapt over the bush. Do anything stupid, she trailed off, mainly to herself. Sarge charged at the closest Timberwolf to him, knocking it to the ground with the impact. The Timberwolf next to him snarled and jumped at him, but Sarge bucked it, sending it flying through the trees. Another Timberwolf tackled Sarge to the ground and went for his throat, but he managed to grab a stick and use it to fend off the approaching jaws. He took the next moment to kick the Timberwolf off of him, leaving some teeth in the stick. The last few Timberwolves turned to the stallion and stared at him with hungry eyes. Applejack jumped out from behind the bushes and stood next to Sarge. Sarge glanced behind Applejack to see the Crusaders trembling. Take the girls and run, Sarge said. I'll fend them off for long enough to... I'm not leaving you behind, Applejack said firmly. That wasn't a request, Sarge said, walking in front of Applejack. It was an order. But what about the ingredients? Applejack said. Sarge threw the stick at Applejack's feet. It had a few Timberwolf teeth lodged in it. Applejack stared at it and then back at Sarge. Go! Sarge yelled, running straight at the Timberwolves. Applejack looked at the girls and nodded. The girls started to run, but Applejack paused and looked back at Sarge. She then shook her head and caught up with the Crusaders as they made their way to Socor's. What's Sarge doing? Applejack asked while running next to her sister. Applejack said nothing and kept pressing on, trying not to think about it. It took the 4 girls just a couple of minutes to arrive back at Sakura's hat, brushing through the trees, the large stick in her mouth. All the others were already back, and their heads snapped to her as she spat the branch onto the ground. "Where's the final ingredient?" Twilight asked. "There's some teeth lodged up in this here stick," Applejack said, panting heavily as the Crusaders then ran through the door and slammed it behind them. "Girls, what are you doing here?" Twilight asked. "We saw that Sarge was coming in here with you. We saw that Sarge was coming in here with you guys." Applebloom started, "and we thought maybe we could come to." Applejack turned suddenly as she remembered about the 3 little ponies that she had towed along. "What did I tell you, huh? I told you to never come in here unless you were with an older pony." The 3 fillies turned their heads down in guilt as Applejack reprimanded them. "Where is Sarge?" Grif interrupted softly. "Don't tell me he didn't come to watch me in pain." Applejack turned to Grif with sad eyes. He stayed behind," Applejack said, her voice suddenly much softer. "What do you mean, stayed behind?" Simmons asked, though he already knew the answer. "The girls were surrounded by the Timberwolves, and Sarge stayed back to slow them down so we could make it back," Applejack said. "I was going to stay with him, but some pony needed to bring the girls to safety." The room fell silent as all eyes fell on Applejack. "You know he's not dead, right?" Grif asked. "I sure hope so," Applejack said. No, I mean he's not dead," Grif said with disbelief. He can't be." "There were so many of them," Applejack said. "Don't worry, Grif just has trouble dealing with deaths," Simmons said. "Even with his sister." "My sister is still alive too, you idiot," Grif said quietly. "Grif, I know you don't want to believe it," Twilight said quietly, "but the odds are, Reds always go up against the odds and come out on top." "Oh, Reds always go up against the odds and come out on top," Sarge said from outside. "But I might need some of that stew." Grif's lips curled into a smile as he shook his head. Applejack ran up to the door and opened it, and all the girls gasped. Sarge was standing there, wounds on his neck and leg, bleeding fiercely. "Miss me?" Sarge said as he spat out some blood. "I told you so," Grif said with a smirk. One more chapter to get this over with. This is like the next story arc, and I want to get it over with, so yeah. Sakura scraped the poisonous secretions off the teeth and dropped it into the cauldron. Sarge slowly walked past the others, blood dripping onto the floor. "Sarge," Applejack said quietly, looking over his wounds. "What?" Sarge grunted. Applejack walked up to Sarge and hugged him. "Thanks for risking your life on our part. That was very brave." "Brave enough to get me a point in our little competition?" Sarge asked. "Fine, but only 'cause you had a handicap," Applejack said with a smile. Sarge grunted. He then turned his attention to Sakura and walked up to her. "Is there going to be enough of that for 2? "I made enough so dozens of ponies could share this brew," Sakura said. "So I would say there will be more than enough for you." "Good," Sarge said, taking a seat on the floor. "Aren't you going to do anything about your injuries?" Twilight asked. "I don't suppose you know how to." Twilight shook her head. "Then no," Sarge said with a smile. Sarge?" Applejack interjected. "I think I could try fixing you up if you like." Sarge turned to Applejack and gave a nod. "Sure, why not? Beats looking at Grif's good-for-nothing mug any day." "Glad to have you back, Sarge," Grif said.
Good to be back, dirtbag,"
Sarge said. "Hang on, I need to grab some supplies from my bag." Applejack dropped her bag on the floor and started to look through it, quickly producing a small box. She extracted a needle, a thread, and a pair of tweezers from it. If you need privacy, you may use my spare room. My spare room, Sakura said, gazing into the mixture. I do not think the children should see such wounds. Thank you kindly, Sakura, Applejack said. Applejack then opened the door to the room that Sakura had indicated, entering with Sarge. Okay, come near the window so I can get some light, Applejack said. She nodded and sat down next to the window. Applejack looked over his wounds and realized they were worse than she had originally thought. She cleaned some of the blood away with a cloth. Then she grabbed the thread and needle and started to stitch up the worst of the wounds. She worked in complete silence, concentrating on fixing Sarge up as much as she could, and found herself done in a matter of minutes. Alright, you're done, Applejack said. I apologize in advance. I ain't the best doctor in Equestria. Much better than any other doctor I've met, Sarge said with a gruff laugh. Or medic, for that matter. Stay right here. I'll be right back quick. Stay right here. I'll be back right quick, Applejack said. Okay, Sarge muttered. Applejack walked back into the main room, and every pony looked at her. So how is he? Simmons asked. Patching him up best I could. He should be up and at him once he drinks that stuff, Applejack said. Applejack then turned her attention to the three fillies. Applebloom, you and the others need to come with me. Yes, sis, Applebloom said. The girls slowly followed Applejack to the room where Sarge was sitting idly. Hey, Sarge! Hey, Sarge! They all said in unison. Hey, Sarge grunted. Hey, Sarge grunted. Well, girls, Applejack said after a couple of seconds of silence. What do you say? Sarge, I'm really sorry we caused this, Scootaloo said. We only came out here because you said you would help us find our cutie marks, Sweetie Belle said. We figured that if we followed you, we might find them, Applebloom said. And, Applejack pressed. We're sorry, the Crusaders said in unison. Sarge stared at the three Crusaders, whose heads were hanging low, avoiding eye contact. Don't be, Sarge grunted after a couple of seconds of silence. Beg your pardon, Applejack said. These girls almost got you killed. As I see it, if these girls hadn't followed us and screamed, we may not have found the Timberwolves in time, Sarge said. I'd say that they saved Grif's life, and as much as I hate to say it, I'd hate to see him go down like that. Hey, yeah, Sweetie Belle said. We're like heroes or something. We're like heroes or something, Scootaloo said. Maybe we'll get our cutie marks for saving lives. The girls all looked at their flanks at the same time, and they each let out a sad sigh. But just because you saved his life doesn't mean what you did wasn't reckless, Sarge said. And trust me, I've invented the meaning of that word. So, you aren't mad? But you aren't happy neither? Applebloom asked. Exactly, Sarge said. Are we being punished? Are we being punished? Sweetie Belle asked nervously. I'll let Applejack decide that once we get back. I'm afraid my punishment might hospitalize you, Sarge said. But for now, let's get back to the others so I can drink that sludge. Sarge then got off the floor and walked back to the main room and planted himself next to Sakura. Is it done yet? Grif asked. Sakura squinted at the mixture and gave a quick nod. He grabbed 2 glasses and filled them to the top. She gave one to Grif, who took a sip and almost threw up. Ugh, this shit is horrible, Grif said. They may taste bad, but once drunk, things will look up, Sakura said. But for the fullest effect, you must drink the entire cup. Quit being a wuss, Sarge muttered, chugging the bottle in one go. He then sniffed the empty bottle and gagged. Ugh, it's quite pungent. It's fucking stinging my throat, Grif yelled. rubbing his neck. And not in a good way. Zecora, I'll be honest with you, Sarge said, starting to sense the aftertaste. This tastes like pure gasoline. There is something about the potion I forgot to mention, Zecora said. This is not a full antidote, merely a potion of suspension. Meaning, Grif said nervously. I think she means that it will not get rid of the infection. It will just stop it from spreading, Twilight said. That is what it is, but have no fear. Given some time, the pain and moss shall clear, Zecora said. The infection has not spread deep into Sarge, so he will be completely cured of this charge. Okay, so just to be sure, the moss shit will disappear and it will stop hurting, Grif asked. And for the love of God, don't rhyme for an answer. I'm having trouble keeping up here. Just nod or shake your head. Zecora thought for a second and then nodded. Fear not, for what remains within you will provide durability, Zecora said, trying to use more simple words, making you stronger and hardier without sacrificing agility. Hey Simmons, that means I'm just like you, Grif said. What are you talking about? Simmons asked. You're part robot, I'm part tree, Grif said. Except my part actually sounds pretty damn useful. And I think I should read... yeah, let's just read one last chapter and then I'll be done because I'm... 10 chapters. I've gone over an hour and 5 minutes, so yeah. The group of ponies said their thanks to Zecora and started to back down the trail to Ponyville. I can't wait to get some sleep, Tucker said. I feel exhausted. We're all tired, dipshit, Church muttered. Though you're looking worse than Grif is. I feel quite good, actually, Grif said with a chuckle. How about you, Sarge? Besides I have a taste in my mouth, not too bad, Sarge said. I guess the Blues are just fond of complaining, Grif said. Last time I got out of my way to save your lazy ass, Church muttered. They heard a snap to the left and they all turned to see a group of Timberwolves following them. Sarge stepped in between the two groups. The Timberwolves glanced at each other and disappeared back into the bushes and trees. What did you do to him? Applejack asked. You don't want to know, Sarge said with a wicked grin. Sorry. You don't want to know, Sarge said with a wicked grin. I would. Timberwolves are cunning, but they aren't easily scared, Twilight said. You must have done something pretty bad to them to make them back off like that. Let's just say I may have bucked one so hard it may have... Sarge started, pausing to think of a suitable word. May have what? Church asked. Exploded, Sarge grunted finally. Do you mean it exploded? Twilight asked. What does it sound like? Sarge chuckled. One of them pounced on my back to bite my neck. After it did, I kicked it in the body and it became firewood. Twilight stared nervously at the others, then back to Sarge. That's impossible, Twilight said in disbelief. Timberwolves are made out of extremely thick bark. It would take much more force than a buck to take one of them down, even more to explode them, as you put it. To explode them, as you put it. Sorry. Well, it didn't explode, but I sure as hell made the others back off, Sarge said. All I know is that they left me alone after that. Twilight thought for a moment and decided that she would have to think about this later. I just can't wait to go get some sleep, Tucker said. Me too. We'll need our rest for tomorrow, Rainbow Dash said. The Wonderbolt show is going to be so awesome. It's too bad that none of you guys are going. Actually, me and Simmons are attending said event as well, Rarity said. Oh, are you buying tickets tomorrow too? Rainbow Dash asked. No, me and Simmons got invited to it, so we were going together, Rarity said. Spike then glanced at Simmons, but Simmons avoided his eye contact. That's cool. Maybe we'll see you guys there, Rainbow Dash said. Maybe, Rarity said. Hey, Tucker, Rainbow Dash said. Yeah? What happened back at the cave? I don't know, but it was pretty fucking cool, Tucker said excitedly. What happened? Twilight asked. You should have seen it, Twilight, Rainbow Dash said. Tucker was fighting a cockatrice, and out of nowhere, Tucker started to shoot electricity out of his body. He shot electricity out of his body? Church asked. Yeah, and then he charged his wings with it and somehow took the cockatrice to the back of the cave. And then when he was in there, the electricity shot out of his body, out of both sides, and his right foreleg, and it looked like a blade, and then he used the blade thing to cut the cockatrice's tail off. Church looked over to Tucker and then nodded. Looks like you brought it here with you. What do you mean, Church? What do you mean, Church? Twilight asked. Before we came here, Tucker had this weapon. Church said. An energy sword. What's an energy sword? Rainbow Dash asked. Sounds cool. It's exactly how it sounds. A sword that was made out of pure energy, Church said. Is he the only one who had one? Twilight asked. Yeah. When he first found it and used it, it became tied to him, like he was the only one that could use it, Church said. I guess that it got carried over with him when he came here. But he was out of juice after the fight with the Meta, Tucker said. It must have gotten recharged somehow then. Church said. Maybe it was when I hit you with lightning, Rainbow Dash suggested. That would make the most sense, Church said. I wonder what made it come out like that, though. I think Sarge did that too, Caboose said. Sarge never had a sword, Caboose, Church said. There's a bug, sorry. I don't know, sorry. I think Sarge did that too, Caboose said. Sarge never had a sword, Caboose, Church said. When I was with him at the market, at the place with the food and things. The marketplace, Applejack filled in. Yeah, the marketplace, Caboose said. When we were there, he kicked this one guy, and it sounded like his shotgun. I remember that, Sarge said with a laugh. I sent his ass flying so damn high. Sarge then grunted and thought for a second. What is it? Applejack asked. I remember hearing that sound when I kicked the Timberwolf, too, Sarge said. You must have brought a remnant of your shotgun with you, but rather than a physical appearance, it gave you the power to kick as hard as that shotgun hit, Church said. That would explain why you sent him flying backwards, and why the Timberwolf exploded. Then why didn't the tree break when Sarge helped us harvest him? Applejack asked. It might be related to his heart rate, Twilight suggested. I would bet it's either that or adrenaline, Church agreed. When Tucker used his ability or whatever, it was when he was fighting the cockatrice. Same with Sarge when he fought that stallion and the Timberwolves. We should look into this more later, Church said as they reached the edge of the forest. But for now, I think we should just get some rest. It's been a long fucking day. They all shared a quick goodbye as they entered town and split up. Church, Twilight, and Spike soon arrived back at the library. Twilight heading straight to bed. Spike, however, was sitting on the balcony. What's on your mind? Church asked. Nothing, Spike said quietly. Even though I've been here for a short time, I already know you're lying. When you're lying, Church said, chuckling for a brief moment. It's about Simmons and Rarity, isn't it? Spike looked at Church and nodded his head. Church sighed and sat next to him. I think he is only going with her as a friend, Church said. Not anything more. So, you shouldn't be worrying. Maybe, but I can't help but feel that this could change, Spike said sadly. You can't think like that. If you do, the only person ending up hurt is yourself, Church said. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Spike looked at the moon and sighed. He then stood up and started to make his way back to the library. You're a good guy, you know that, Church? Get to know me more and you won't think that for long, Church said with a laugh, patting Spike on the back. And that is all I really want to read of that story because I've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes and I'm tired. Stupid bug. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching my videos. I would really like feedback on how you guys like these readings, which ones you like the best. The ones that are professionally done, the ones that are like this, the ones that have music, whatever, you know. It's been a tiring day, it's been a tiring week, tiring past 2 weeks, a lot of stuff happened. Quick update that I probably should have said at the beginning, but I was too lazy, because I'm lazy. I'm going to Fiesta Equestria! So yeah, that will be awesome. It's gonna be better than awesome. It's gonna be awesomistic. So yeah, I'm gonna go to Fiesta Equestria and do stuff and see people and probably do a story or two there one day. I don't know if I can find my flip camera. I'll take that too, and you can all see my adventures on the way there. And if you want to meet up with me, well, good luck trying to find me because, you know. Yeah. Anyway, good luck trying to find me. Stuff is gonna be awesome. And it'll be cool. So yeah, without further ado, sorry for that short delay. Like I said, going to Fiesta Equestria, it's gonna be awesome. If it is all possible, that it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so much fun, and it's gonna be great. So without further ado, I will see you guys later. Brony on!